So for today, we will have the ANOVA or the analysis of variance. Remember class that ANOVA is used to test if there is a significant difference between 3 or more groups. So please look at your statement of the problem. If you have question na asking about significant difference tapos 3 groups or more ang ginapangitaan ninyo og difference. So for example, sa mga experimental na study, you're going to look for the significant difference between your treatment group, your positive control group, and then your negative control group. So tulunan na siya ka grupo, which means na t-test is not applicable anymore. So ang pinaka-applicable na test for that is the ANOVA. Let me open the slide first. Ayan. And let me open the other one also. Let's have a little review about ANOVA. I-open. Kasi ba yung open? That. Okay.
Help.
Again, ANOVA class is used if we are testing the difference between the means of your two groups. Do not forget that. Kasi there are groups na kailangan ang ANOVA. So especially the one-way analysis of variance, it's a parametric test. Therefore, if parametric test class, kailangan may mga parametric assumption na kailangan ma-meet or kailangan ma-satisfy before ka mag-decide na you really have to use ANOVA. So it's a parametric test that can be used to test if the means of the independent groups are equal or identical. So ang ginagamit, since parametric test man ni, the measure of central tendency na ginagamit is the mean. We can also use the standard deviation to test if how dispersed your collected data is from each other. So sa one-way analysis of variance, sa atoang null hypothesis, ang atoang project din ha is lahat ng means sa lahat ng grupo mo, di ba you have 3 or more groups, equal silang lahat. Kaya when we state our research hypothesis or the null hypothesis, ang ginabutang, there is no significant difference. So like there is no significant difference in the blood glucose level of the mice treated with the treatment group, the positive control, and the negative control. So kasi we assume that all of the means are equal. Now for the alternative hypothesis, ang meaning ana is all groups are not equal. Thus when we state our research hypothesis, this is not actually the null, it's the alternative hypothesis, there is a significant difference. So ano lang na siya pag-state, pag alternative hypothesis, nag-assume ta na naay difference between the mean of the groups na to, 3 or more groups man. So what is our decision rule for our ANOVA? Actually, it's the same class with that of our independent t-test or even the paired t-test na if magamit ta og software, ang atuang tanawon is ang p-value. So if the p-value is lesser than 0.05, if the level of confidence used is 0.05, then we reject our null hypothesis. Meaning, i-accept na to ang alternative hypothesis na to na there is a significant difference between our groups. Okay? So, if we are very strict, especially if experimental studies, the level of significance na ginagamit is 0.01. So that is very strict class kasi pag experimental studies, we are dealing with life, and like we are making drugs that can treat certain diseases. So it's very strict. Most of the time, it uses 0.01. Pero actually, in undergraduate studies, dili kaayo siya strict in terms of the level of significance because 0.05 is still accepted sa sa experimental studies sa undergrad. So let's see if mahuman mo sa inyong collection sa data, we will analyze your data. So if it's greater naman than 0.05, then you have to accept the null hypothesis that there is really no significant difference sa mean sa inyong mga groups. Okay? So let me give you an example here. So for example, you have your positive control, you have your negative control, and then you have your treatment group. So yung treatment group ninyo class, ito yung like plant material ninyo. For example, if the computed p-value is greater than 0.05, example lang na-compute na p-value is 0.963, this is greater than 0.05, then you have to accept your null hypothesis. Ang meaning ana, there is no significant difference, wala day significant difference ang mean sa imuhang nakuha ng mga results sa tanang group, sa positive, sa negative, ug sa treatment na group. If that happens in your research class, it means na there is something wrong sa imuhang research, especially if na ay negative control. Kaya nga nung nagpantay-pantay man na sila, nga nung statistically wala man sila significant difference na supposedly dapat na kasi this one is positive control. This is already accepted in the market. It is already approved and proven in the market na ginagamit jud siya as drug for a certain condition. And this one is negative control. Supposedly, dapat wala na siya effect. Like for example, you have laboratory animals. So dapat wala na siya effect. Now, how come na ang ato sa statistically wala sila significant difference? Kahit take note, i-accept nimo kay the p-value is 0.05. So pag ingana ang result karon ninyo sa inyong research class, most likely the panel will really ask question what happened during the experimentation nganong wala na sila significant nganong wala sila significant difference. Okay? So okay lang unta to kung ang positive ug ang treatment group wala sila significant difference kay I mean naa sila kung wala sila significant difference then inyuhang treatment group naa gyud siya effect kasi it's comparable to that of the positive control. Kaya pag wala na sila significant difference ang positive ug ang treatment, it means kung unsa ang effect sa positive, maupod ang effect sa imuhang treatment group. So that's a good result. Although ang negative result is still a result, pero magkaroon ta og problema class kung ingani ang inyong result. So, ako ang gina-expect actually pag nag-ANOVA ta class, pag mahuman na mag collection sa inyong data, ang gina-expect nga statistical result is this one. less than 0.05. Kasi we have to reject our null hypothesis na there is no significant difference among the three. Dapat naagid na sila significant difference. Kasi dinhi pa lang sa ilahang duhadaan, dapat makita na siya. Okay? So let's see sa results sa inyong research if we have to reject our null hypothesis or we have to accept our null hypothesis. If there is no significant difference between your three groups, then you have to explain what went wrong in your study nganong nagpantay na silang tanan. Okay? So katong nahuman na, like sa grupo nila Belly na you are just waiting for the QC test, you can actually start with your result section sa inyong paper. So nagtudlo ko sa inyo, balikin ninyo tong how to write the result section of your paper. Remember that you have to follow the chronological order sa inyong statement of the problem. Kung unsa ang number 1 nga statement of the problem, mao na siya imuhang number 1 sa imuhang result. So you have to make an introduction. I-review ninyo tong results na di ba dapat na siya introduction. Then you may use tables to present your data, and then you have to explain the table. Sa result section, you don't have to interpret your data, or you don't have to analyze and interpret your data, but you have to explain what is written in the table. So nag-expect ko sa grupo nila Belly na magsugod na muughan ay sa inyong result, kasi you have to do statistical analysis for that pa. Especially sa inyong statement of the problem na is there a significant difference. Okay? So I need to see those results. I really need to see that. Hanayon na ninyo siya karon. So while you are waiting for the result of the QC test. So ang grupo lang nila Isobel kay stay put sa mo since wala pa tayo magamit na micropipette. But I want to ask ang grupo nga under kay Ma'am Eroy, Jai, naa ba mo'y gamitan og statistics? Nga
Wala na ata, ma'am.
Wala?
Baotong gi-question ako sa imo, ma'am, kung magamit pa ba mi og statistics.
What is your number
Main
1?
lang man mo tong ang kwaon na mo, ma'am.
Ang SOP, what is your number 1 SOP?
I-check sana ko, ma'am, ulit.
Sige, kasi sila Claire, that is a qualitative test, a qualitative research. So they have to do Colizing method sa sa pag-interpret ana. Pero pila nakabook inyong na interview na si Claire?
Yes, ma'am, present. Good morning.
Good morning. Pila nakabook inyong na interview, Claire?
4 pa lang, ma'am. Busy pa jud sila, ma'am. Dili mi kasingit.
Okay. So you have to move fast ha. Wala na mo laing na contact. Murag daghan man na sila nga pharmacy.
Same lang ang reason nila, ma'am, na busy sila sa vaccination ngayon.
Ay, as in. Pero naay ni okay, naay ni.
Yes, ma'am. May naga-okay, pero i-check pa daw nila ang schedule nila.
Okay. Sige. So you make it fast. How about Majeda? Under ka kay Mama Ben, no? Si Majeda? Majeda?
Ma'am.
Kanang, di ba, qualitative research sad?
Apa, ma'am.
Inyong participants, hospital o clinical pharmacist?
Yes po.
O sila sagol or lahi-lahi?
Sagol na, ma'am. Kasi hindi man din marami ang clean farm, ma'am.
Okay. So pila nakabook inyo na interview so far?
Ma'am, wala sila nag-reply sa amin.
Isang isa, kadaghan og hospital o clinical
Ma'am,
pharmacy.
ang ibang hospital, ma'am, hindi nila gipansin yung letter namin, ma'am, na approval.
Tapos,
Tapos everyday na namin gina-follow up ngayon.
So wala pa mo nakasugod sa inyong data gathering?
Wala pa, ma'am. Yung na-approve, ma'am, 2 hospital, ay 3 na yata, ma'am.
Unsa inyong scope ana tertiary hospitals lang?
Apo, ma'am. Tertiary hospital sa Jansan.
Okay.
Approve naman kami sa ma'am, sa GSDH, GMC o Socsargen. Tapos
Okay.
ginintay na lang namin yung reply ng head pharmacist.
Okay. Sige, so wala pa. Dugaya pa. Dugay biya I mean, daghan kay sulaton ang qualitative nga research. So, paningkamutin na ninyo nga mahumanda yun. What are the top 3 unnotified donors? Okay. So you don't have statistical analysis, Jai. You just have to get the top 3 and then mean lang ang I mean kailangan yung statistics pero not the inferential statistics. So dali lang day mo na mahuman-an eh. Pero nagsugod na mo, Jai.
Yes, ma'am. Tapos ano pa lang, 22 pa lang response na natanggap na mo out of 100.
Asa mo sa Facebook? Ay sa online?
Facebook Messenger.
Okay.
Send me sa mga GC.
Saan yung target gani nga respondents?
100, ma'am.
Nga, kinsa na sila?
Taga
Puyo sa
Jansan.
Jansan, ma'am.
Walay laing criteria.
Nagagamit og toner. Ato lang, ma'am.
Gamit ng toner, ma'am, nga wala ginapalit sa pharmacy o sa mall.
Okay. Sige, laban lang yun sa data gathering. Murag maunag yun sa inyong tanan ug human sila beli ani. Imbes nag-experimental ni sila, nauna na sila. Unsa man Claire?
May tanong lang ko, ma'am ba? Kasi nag-ask kami kay Ma'am Eroy about sa documentation good yung every interview namin. Sabi niya, maglagay daw kami. Tapos, di ba ma'am, may confidentiality man?
Oo.
So, hindi na lang kami maglagay ng ma'am.
Plates, pictures,
Yes, ma'am, ganyan.
tabunin ninyong now.
Tabunan lang, ma'am.
Pati ang pangalan.
Ay, rin. Sige, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. That is true to all groups ha. Class, remember sa ato ang research, we have appendices. Appendices, that is where you place all the necessary letters, certificates, and other na mga documents na relevant siya pero dili siya necessarily na nakabutang sa results section sa inyong research. Tapos, after sa appendices class, you have to have the plates. Ang kanang plates section sa inyong research, mao na siya din ang mga pictures for mga documentation ninyo during the data gathering. Pero sa mga research involving kanang human participants or human respondents, you can actually place pictures but you have to make sure na natabunan na ang ilahang nawong, dili sila identifiable. So na inyong himuon. For those na experimental ang research na ay mga laboratory na test, you have to take pictures sa every step sa inyong procedure. And mauna siya ang inyong ibutang sa inyong plates. So sa plates section class, picture lang na siya and then a caption. So caption kung unsa na siya nga step. So like plate A, actually it's more of a title than a caption pala. It's plate A, tapos unsa na siya nga procedure. Ano lang siya and then plate B na sad. Okay? And so on hangtod sa end sa procedure ninyo. Questions class? Wala. So kung ang magamit og ANOVA hanayo sa na inyong mga results and then let's do statistical testing. So what are the assumptions na kailangan nato i-satisfy for you to conclude na you really have to use ANOVA in analyzing your result? So first, kailangan normally distributed ang inyong data. So most of the time, if your results or your data is in continuous na level of measurement, when you say continuous, that is interval siya na scale. So naa siya true numerical na value, then most of the time it is normally distributed given na wala tayo outliers, or when you say outliers, these are extreme results. Ano siya, kanang layo siya compared to the usual na result. So kung naamoy 100 ka tao, walay mga outliers class, walay kanang extreme kaayo nga most of the scores na alang sa mga 70 plus, tapos na ay isa ka buok nga 100 yun ang iyahang score. That is considered outlier, and it will disturb the normality of your data or the normality of distribution. And then we have equality of variance. We have to make sure na ang variance nato sa kada grupo, kasi like we have 3 or more groups, dapat equal sila. So nagihapon tay test just like sa independent na t-test o sa pair t-test, nagihapon tay test for normality and equality of variance. And then number 3, there is independence of observation. So for example, positive result, that is independent from the negative result. So lahi na imuhang subject sa imuhang first group, lahi imong subject sa second group, and they are not related to each other. And then you have to kailangan nag-random sampling mo. Kung wala mo nag-random sampling kasi wala man tayo mabuhat, i-purchase man to ninyo yung ilaga, wala na mo kamu mismo ang nag-random sampling, I hope nag-random assignment mo. Okay? So dapat na ay random assignment, na ay randomly i-assign ninyo ang mga ilaga ninyo sa positive control, ang isa sa negative control, and then the others sa treatment group. And again, you did it randomly. And then your independent variable should be in group. So tama man to atong independent variable, positive control, negative control, and treatment group. Grupo siya, nakagrupo siya. And then the dependent variable should at least be interval. So interval scale siya, meaning na ay true numerical value for that. Okay? So example, we have an example here na study. This is not an experimental na study. This is a social science na study, but it's related to pharmacy. So we have a study was conducted among healthcare providers. We have the pharmacists, the nurses, the physicians at XXY Hospital in QCT on their attitude towards adverse drug reaction. So an adapted 1 to 5 Likert scale questionnaire was used to measure their attitude. So the researcher wanted to know unsa ba ang attitude sa mga medical professionals in terms on adverse drug reaction. So gusto niya mabalaan 3 ka buok, so naay 3 ka grupo. So again, dili applicable si t-test dinhi kasi 3 na class ang grupo. If we look at the conceptual framework, the independent variable is in group kasi mga healthcare practitioner, naka-group na sila. So ang mga nurses, isa sila ka-group, physician, and pharmacist. So the dependent variable, the outcome variable here is we will know the attitude of these healthcare professionals or practitioners towards adverse drug reaction reporting. Kasi class, pag nag-work mo like sa hospital, actually if naamoy nakita nga adverse drug reaction, gina-report na siya. So gina-report na siya. So tanawon na ay committee sa hospital na nag-process anang mga na-observe na adverse drug reaction. And then gina-report na siya, for example sa FDA, gina-report siya. Kung dili siya common ha, like kung mutan-aw ta sa literatures, wala dito nakabutang na kana nga certain drug naga-cause og specific na adverse drug reaction nga inyong na-observe. So kailangan na siya ma-report. Pero naadyoy mga naaman gyud mga healthcare practitioner na ang ilahang attitude towards that is not really, they are not into it. They are not into reporting. So pasagdan lang na nila. So muna siya ang objective ani nga study kung unsa ba ang attitude aning mga healthcare practitioner towards the adverse drug reaction reporting. So these are the sample SOP or research questions. We have here, what is the level of attitude of pharmacists on ADR reporting, sa nurses also, and sa physician. So pag nangutan na gani na siya, what, we only use descriptive statistics here, which means kailangan lang nato ang mean sa ilahang level of attitude. And we can also have the standard deviation to know how dispersed the data are from each other. So this is non-experimental and descriptive comparative. Bakit comparative? Kasi sa number 4 na research question, nangutana siya, is there a significant difference in the level of attitude among the healthcare practitioners on adverse drug reaction reporting? So this is already an inferential statistic, specifically one-way ANOVA. Pag one-way ANOVA class, you are just comparing 3 or more groups in terms sa ilahang mean. Okay? Again, we use the one-way ANOVA if you are just comparing 3 or more groups in terms of their means. So, tagaan ta mo og copy, i-send na ko sa chat sa tagaan ta mo copy sa result ani nga study na ani siya result. Wait lang. Wait ha. Para i-process nato ang atuang data. Ayan. So please download. Then again, mag-practice ta og process sa atuang problem, especially atong mogamit yun og ANOVA. Dapat karon pa lang kabalo na mugunsag yun ang inyong gamiton. So I'll start with the JASP software. I will not use the the SPSS kasi we have problems with the intellectual property if mo gamit ta og SPSS. Kasi ang SPSS kailangan na ay license and we only have the crack version of that. So pag class, pag i-declare ninyo na siya sa inyong papel, ma-question gud na siya, ma-invalidate na inyong papel kay walay license ang SPSS. So ito lang, dugaya mo open. So please download again. Please download the JASP if you don't have JASP pa. Hindi na ta mag-manual computation kasi dugay kay ta mahuman sa manual computation. Okay, so sa JASP software, diba, this is how it looks like. So you just have to open your file. I placed it sa research capability building na folder. And then remember class that JASP will only recognize those files na naka CSV format. So ang inyong Excel, i-convert ninyo na siya. Wait lang. Same lang ang JASP sa SPSS, pero ang data sa Excel nato siya i-input. So ato siyang i-input sa Excel, tapos pagkahuman, i-save as nato siya as i-save as nato siya as CSV kasi CSV lang ang ma-recognize sa atuang software. Okay? So ingani siya, pwede siya ingani na pagka class. Ayan. Pwede siya ingani na pagka input sa Excel. So we have the ADR reporting mo ni ilahang level of attitude, and there is a pikas na column, we have the healthcare practitioner. So, iisa ni mo tanang nurse, iisa tanang physician, and then we have the pharmacist. So, sa inyong result, pwede na siya mo ni ang positive control, negative control, tas kani ang treatment na group. So, balik ta dito sa akong JASP software. Ayan. Kaya open na to ang ADR reporting. Yeah. So, i-import na niya dayon. Again, CSV file ang kaya niya nga i-read. So, ani na siya. The first column will be the scores on the ADR reporting na level of attitude, and on the other side, kung nakita ninyo, naka-nominal scale na siya. Kasi groupings man groupings ni niya. So, how do we test? ANOVA man so click ANOVA. And then, we are doing the ANOVA, one way na ANOVA. I-click ninyo na siya. And then, gawas ni ingani, no? Pwede na to ibutang si ADR reporting sa dependent variable. Isang column lang siya. Tapos sa PHRes column, pwede ninyo siya ibutang na positive control, negative control, ug treatment na group. Tapos si HC practitioner mo na siya ato ang fixed na factors. Lato na to class. Kaya nag-ano pa siya. Nag-loading pa siya. Ayan. So, makita nato din ang p-value, the sum of squares, the degree of freedom, the mean square, the f, and the p-value. But we only need the p-value sa pag-analyze. We can also click descriptive statistics para makita nato ang mean sa bawat grupo. So, pwede nato niya siya gamiton in answering the first 3 statement of the problem. Kaya di ba kung tanawin ninyo inyong research, ang una yung pangutana what is the mean? So para diretsyon na di nakamagmano-mano og compute, you click descriptive statistics and automatically it will give you the means of the groups and also the standard deviation. Yeah, may post hoc later. And then what else? We can also do assumption checks. This one, pwedeng homogeneity. This is for the equality of variances. Remember, we have to make sure na equal ang variances sa ato ang kada nga grupo. Okay? And i-interpret sa nato before ta mag-post hoc. So unsa gani ang ato ang decision rule for this? Dili lang ka ita mag-strict kasi this is social sciences na study. If the p-value is lesser than 0.05, unsay buhaton nato sa atong null hypothesis? We have to reject
the null hypothesis.
Okay, very good. Reject the null hypothesis. Mo dapat na siya atong decision rule for this one. So tanawon nato the p-value the p-value is less than 0.01, meaning baba jud kaayo siya compared to the 0.05. Thus we are rejecting class the null hypothesis. Unsa gani ang null hypothesis? There is no significant difference. I-reject nato na siya. So meaning na ay significant difference sa mga means sa bawat grupo. Muna ang ginamin anang gina-reject nimo ang null hypothesis. So unsa man to? In this study natay tulo ka grupo, nurse, pharmacist, and physician. So naaday difference ang ilahang level of attitude towards ADR reporting, adverse drug reaction reporting. If that's the case class sa ANOVA, pag ang imuhang result is naay significant difference among the groups, that's the time you do the post hoc test. Okay? That's kanus aninyo himuon ang post hoc na test kapag kanaay significant difference. Pag for example class, ang imuhang p-value is greater than 0.05. Di ba i-accept na to ang null hypothesis na walay significant difference among the group. So you don't need to do post hoc test kasi sa post hoc test gina-check nato kung asa dapit ang difference. Kasi ingon man sa ANOVA na daw difference among the group. So again, sa post hoc test, we will check on paano naging different ang 3 groups. So click here on the side. Ay, makaano dito. Ayan. Click here on the side, the post hoc test. We will be doing the 2 key. Wait lang ha. Ayan. Click 2 key and then kaning HC practitioner ibalhin na siya diri sa PhRes. So makita na nato class ang result sa post hoc test. I hope you can still see it na siya sa ilalom. Ayan. So paano na nato siya i-interpret? So kani mean difference sa bawat grupo sa ilahang mean. For example, nurse and pharmacist. Naa sila'y difference na negative 1.122. Meaning mas dako ang level ni pharmacist kay negative man. Ano man siya? Nurse minus pharmacist. So kay negative man, mas dako ang mean sa level of attitude sa mga pharmacist. And the nurse and physician, mas dako gihapon ang physician kasi negative ang result. Tapos diri sa baba, pharmacist versus physician, mas dako ang pharmacist kay positive ang result, 0.985. Now, how do we know? How do we interpret this? Diri ta sa p-value gihapon class, p-value. And ano gihapon ang ato ang standard dinhi atong level of significance 0.05. So pag less than 0.05 reject gihapon the null hypothesis. When you say null hypothesis, example nurse versus pharmacist, there is no significant difference. Mo na siya ang null hypothesis between the nurse and the pharmacist. Pero tanaw na to ang p-value, it's less than 0.001. Meaning we have to reject that hypothesis. Nakuha? Meaning there is a significant difference between the level of attitude sa nurse ug sa pharmacist. Okay? Na ay difference, nurse ug pharmacist. Tapos kung tanaw na to, nurse versus physician, the p-value is 0.348, meaning it's more than 0.05. Meaning ana, there is no, kaya accept na to ang hypothesis, there is no significant difference sa ADR reporting sa attitude sa nurse ug sa physician. Pag abot sa pharmacist ug sa physician na pod, it's less than 0.05 less than 0.05 na pod. So there is a significant difference. So nakita na nato class asa dapit ang significant difference dinhi. Ingon sa ANOVA na aday significant difference kay gi-reject nato ang null. Pag abot sa post hoc nakita nato asa ang difference. There is a significant difference in the ADR, in the level of attitude towards ADR reporting sa nurse ug sa pharmacist ug sa physician. So balikan nimo karon ang mean din. Kinsa day pinakadakong mean sa ilaha? Ang pharmacist. So sa interpretation, taas gyud ang level of reporting attitude ni pharmacist compared sa duha. And naay significant difference ang attitude ni pharmacist compared sa duha. Kay di ba nurse versus pharmacist, there is a significant difference. Pharmacist versus physician, naagi hapoy significant difference. So that's how you interpret the result of the post hoc test. Do not forget ha, kanus ginagamit ang post hoc test. If sa ANOVA, gi-reject nimo ang null hypothesis. Pero pag i-accept nimo, no need to do the post hoc. Kasi wala gani sila difference. Ani ang post hoc will give you the specific difference among the groups. Okay? So for this one, assumption checks, you just have to check kung na-fulfill ba nimo ang assumption kasi parametric test man this time it's for the test for variances. Ang atuang decision rule for this is there if the p-value is greater, baliktad ni sila ha, greater than 0.05, then the variances among the groups are equal. Equal sila. So just like this one, the p-value is 0.570. It's greater than 0.05. Then ang mga variances sa group are equal. And that satisfied the parametric assumption. Okay? So tama nga naggamit ta og ANOVA. Questions so far, class, about the use of ANOVA? I hope na sabtan na siya. The most important thing is here is kabalo ka paano nimo i-encode ang imuhang data, tapos kabalo ka mag-manipulate sa imuhang software nga gamiton. And lastly, and pinaka-importante gyud sa tanang importante, kabalo ka mo interpret sa imuhang nakuha na mga numbers dinha. Okay? So ang ako karong assignment sa grupo nila Belly kay sila pa may nakauna og experiment, you have to organize the collected data, i-organize ninyo and i-try ninyo og analyze using this statistical software, and let's see if there is a significant difference sa inyong mga grupo. Okay? Questions? Actually, nagyapon ko yung meeting karon class, but I really need to meet you before the meeting kay limited ang atuang time. Walay pangutana? Balikan na to atong what is that? Wala. This one. Yes, Jonabel. You want to ask something? So, monito itong nakuha nga mga tables kagaina ha. So, pwede po ninyo siya himuon og ing-ani kung maghimo na mo og table ninyo. So, the p-value is less than 0.001, which means there is a significant difference. Tapos katong sa post hoc, this one, multiple comparison, ilisi lang ninyo ng SHS at GHS2. Kay nurse versus physician, the difference is this one. Physicians versus pharmacist, nurse versus pharmacist, tas gibutangan niyag asterisk, meaning mauni siya ang naay significant difference. Okay, ang physicians versus pharmacist ug nurse versus pharmacist. Pero sa nurse ug sa physicians, walay difference ang ilahang level of attitude towards ADR reporting. So, pwede ninyo siya anion. I-explain lang ninyo ang sa table. Okay? So, na to imong pangutana, Jonabel, ingon likag ma'am. Saman. Wala may gustong ipangutana. Unsa same lang ang result pag gamiton ang chef test sa test. Most of the time we do the two keys. The two keys ang pinaka ginagamit for the post hoc. Unsa pa? Pag-explore mo din ha. And then tell me kung unsay na find out ninyo based sa inyong result. I-change lang, i-change. So, wala na? Wala na tayo